most importantly, that's the first thing to I think to start with, is that we're human, and things are crying, sadness, confusion, frustration, anger are all human emotions. So whether someone is male or female, they're going to feel like that.
You tend to question yourself, am I more of a masculine or feminine? I don't know if any of the guys here have asked themselves this question, but I have.
I think the problem is not being able to break down, it's being comfortable with the breakdown, so to say. Because you see almost that as females, it's not a question of whether we are ashamed or not. It's that we are comfortable enough, or society has made it comfortable enough for us to actually accept that we are breaking down.
Usually men would like to conceal their challenges and their stresses and all of them, be seen as a strong person, because we want to be strong for the other person. Most men would like to show this strength and masculinity so that people don't see that sign of weakness. I mean, experiencing mental challenges or stresses sometimes is seen as a weakness, but should it be?
If men do not allow themselves to feel emotion, then there's a part of them that they are missing, or that they are robbing themselves of. I think of even, the Bible, how God describes that he's jealous, that sometimes he gets angry. How dare men not allow themselves to feel that?
I'm going through a heartbreak. This woman dumped me. You even cry to your friends. There are few, because men are trained to hold their pain. Okay, and so talking about it makes them feel like they're not men enough, like they are not there. So, but according to me, it shouldn't be a sign of weakness, but a sign of strength.
Men are also humans, but the problem that we have in our societies right now is that we have trained the boy child to be too hard, even if there are times that they want to be emotional about issues. You realize that growing up, be like, as a man, you don't have to be this. As a man, you don't have to be that. And it's not like say it's something that it's peculiar to just men. As in, it's not anything that only men do, like have a hand in. It's the general society, like from the female side, from the male side. It's that's how we go in the society. So I don't find any problem with getting those down times as a man. It's not anything like a weakness, because you are a human being, and yeah, sometimes those bad moments do come that you have to be emotional about issues. Sometimes if if you think it's best to do, just cry things out and just bounce back.
I think men have to, really start also trying to separate. And I think maybe learning to separate what they do from who they truly are. Being a man often is synonymous with money, providing. Those are roles. That's not who you are. It's what you do. And I think if men, I believe men can get to a point where they truly, believe and accept that they matter, that they are loved. I think it starts with personhood. If you as a man understand that you matter, that you are loved, even apart from doing all these things that are very important to do, if you understand that for who you are loved and you matter and you're appreciated, I think men will be able to at least take the step in the right direction, to allow themselves to be something that's very important, just simply human.
For me, it's actually been a blessing to see him go through his emotions, his anger, his sadness. It's been a blessing to watch that, and how much we have both grown from that. I don't see it as a weakness.
Oh my God, I'm breaking down. I am failing. I have hit rock bottom. I have failed. I have disappointed some people. I have disappointed myself. I have let my family down. And I think that's where the biggest disparity is between men and women, is that as women, the minute I feel like I've failed, if I applied for something not accepted, that very moment I'll be like, oh my God, it didn't work out. What did I do wrong? Let me talk to my sister. But for men, it's more of a, this didn't happen. They don't really, it doesn't really register that as a human being, it's okay for you to fail and seek help.
You're going back home. Why should going back home be a point of stress? Why should it be a stressor? Like, why should going back to your work that you've been doing for the past 6 years be a stressor? Why should going back to the people you love, be a stressor, you know, but that was it, you know, for me. To a very large extent, from what we are all saying, it's about the environment we find ourselves and how the perception, how we think that will be accepted in whichever way we show our emotions, you know. So the environment in a large way is influencing how men show emotions or deal with mental stresses and mental health in general. So my name is Dijo Kwaku, and I happen to be the founding chair for Voice One Africa. This is our very first episode of Serene Minds. We're talking everything mental health as far as Africa is concerned. And Voice One Africa, we are committed to Pan-Africanism, connecting the youth of Africa. And what we do is just to empower the youth of Africa to make sure that we connect from wherever we are so that there are no limits, there are no borders. That's what we want to get rid of, the borders. So we say that it's Pan-Africanism from the bottom up. All right. And this is our first episode of Serene Minds for this year, 2024. And I'm excited to be here with all of you. It's great to have you. So we're going to have us introduce ourselves. Barbara is going to introduce herself first, then we'll go to Hilda. So Barbara, over to you.
Hi, everyone. I hope you're okay. My name is Barbara Mwambirwa. I'm representing Zambia. I'm a global health alumni trained by Charles R. Drew University, a university based in the USA. I'm also a nurse professional and a psychosocial counselor. I'm so much into adolescent girls and young women. Yes, so that's me. That's about me. Can throw it over to, I've seen Isaac. Isaac can introduce himself. I think we can be rolling it over to the next person like that.
Okay, Isaac.
Yeah, I'm Isaac from Ghana. I work with fabric cleaning, management and services, and also a pastor as a whole. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Okay, Ngendo.
Hi everyone. I am Nyendo from Kenya. Graduated from Catholic University of East Africa. Basically a teacher. Yes, that's all.
Awesome. It's great to have you. We're going to kickstart the conversation. I'm going to share one thing and then we'll share our perspectives on it and then we move from there. This is it. It says that if you don't make time for your wellness, you will be forced to make time for your illness. Is this true? Do you agree with this statement? Barbara, what do you think? If you don't make time for your wellness, you'll be forced to make time for your illness. What do you think this is a true assertion? Is it a correct statement?
If you don't make time for your wellness,
you'll be forced to make time for your illness.
I believe somehow it's quite true. It's a true statement. Why do I agree to it? Is because if we literally don't have time to do things that are contributing to our wellness, it is very easy to start having health issues. Okay. For example, I can give, let's say I'm too busy for work. I literally don't have time to attend to my self needs. What I mean by self needs is I don't have time to meditate. I don't have time to exercise. I don't have time to eat well. I don't have time for those things. So at the end of the day, I start having outbursts. I start having probably headache due to too much stress. At the end of the day, I haven't attended to small symptoms that were coming out because I was too busy. When I develop a major symptom, I'll begin to start nursing it because I didn't have time the first time I.
I'm sorry, Barbara. We seem to have lost you, your network. But I think we've grasped what you're talking about, that if we are not able to take care of ourselves in terms of our physical, spiritual,
I developed fever.
We are not able to take care of all these things, eventually it has effects on our physical being and our well-being, so you're siding with that statement, which is true. Is there any other person who wants to share any perspective or their thoughts on what I just shared?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I want to add on to what Barbara has said. Yes, that statement is very true. It happens that we tend to focus more on the other party, be it our parents, be it our siblings or our friends, and we get to forget about ourselves. So by the time we are coming to realize, oh, there is me, you're already having so many illnesses, just like Barbara said. We have headaches, we get to depression, we get to so many illnesses out there. But if we focus on ourselves, it has to begin with myself. I have to have that discipline that, yes, I have my parents, I do have my siblings, and all those other people, but it has to begin with myself. You only make room for yourself, for you to be able to accommodate each other people. But if you're not able to do it yourself, then the illnesses that we are being told here, they just bring up themselves. So yes, I do agree with Barbara on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. Yeah. So if you make room for yourself, then you're able to accommodate other people. That's really cool. Thank you so much for sharing. Today, actually, we are zooming in on men's mental health. I mean, we've spoken generally about the perspective of keeping ourselves well and taking care of ourselves. But today, we want to focus on men. I recall how when I was in South Africa, I think from 2020, 2021, I was in South Africa amidst COVID and all of that. And the pressure of COVID and also being isolated, having to keep to yourself, the public spaces were not available. I was in a strange land. I mean, I'd made some friends, all right, but of course, we're all very separated now. And you're just in a place where you don't really have any kind of networks and connections. And it was really stressful. And on top of that, I was doing my master's, right? And it was really a crucial time. And towards the end of 2021, I was now faced with the reality of coming back home. Just to give a little context, whilst I was in South Africa, because of the funding that I had and all of that, life in South Africa was very comfortable. It was very comfortable. I mean, I didn't have to struggle for much. Life was good, so having to come back to Ghana where things were pretty hard. I mean, to put it frankly, I mean, I was working, I work in the public service. I mean, as a senior officer, but the salary you earn as a public servant is not anything to write home about. And I mean, the pressure of taking care of family, a husband, father, you're into ministry. I'm a reverend minister. So there are a lot of things that you have to deal with being in Ghana and being in these various roles that I play. So coming back to Ghana, I was faced with this really big hurdle. It's like I'm leaving this place where it's more comfortable. And to add to it, I mean, whilst I was in South Africa, I had an opportunity with an international organization that I was working with in Netherlands. But it was for a short period. But being in South Africa kind of opened me up to the possibilities. You see, it was like I wasn't exposed to all of these whilst I was in Ghana. And these opportunities seemed to be only available in South Africa. So coming back to Ghana was really a psychological, there was psychological tension. It was like a pressure for me. I remember booking an appointment with the psychologist. I mean, the psychologist was overbooked, so I didn't get the chance to interact with her. But my supervisor was very present, and I used to share my frustrations with him, how I felt I'm coming back to Ghana to a life of hardship, to a life of lot of pressure and all of that. And speaking with him, to some extent, kind of, it took a little bit of the pressure off of me, because I was able to talk to him, and he offered lots of psychological support, saying that, for instance, most people who come for their masters are preparing to move to the next level. So it's true that I'm going back to Ghana and I'm going to be faced with all these familiar confrontations or with these familiar challenges that I'm used to. But I mean, I'm kind of prepared to move to the next level. So I should see it from that perspective. So the point from which I came to Ghana, I still face that tension being in Ghana, but it was like, because I was able to speak with him and the kind of advice he gave and all of that, I was able to kind of prepare myself to come back to Ghana. And I'm sharing this just to let you know that sometimes it can be very bizarre. It can be like something that is ordinary, like you're going back home. Why should going back home be a point of stress? Why should it be a stressor? Like, why should going back to your work that you've been doing for the past 6 years be a stressor? Why should going back to the people you love be a stressor? But that was it, for me. And being able to speak with my supervisor at the time, I couldn't get a psychologist to talk to. And in fact, that was the very first time I was actually speaking to I tried to speak to a psychologist, because I'm a psychologist myself. So I'm sharing this. It seems quite light, but it was really intense, I must say. So just like a point, an opener. And I don't know if anybody wants to say something with this. I see Mandisa, I see Genevieve, you're welcome. Annie, you're welcome. Yeah, I see lots of you. Chinelo, yeah, Pepra, and all of you. It's great to have you all. So we're just talking about men's mental health. And we know that usually men would like to conceal their challenges and their stresses and all of them, be seen as a strong person, because we want to be strong for the other person. Most men would like to show this strength and masculinity so that people don't see that sign of weakness. I mean, experiencing mental challenges or stresses sometimes is seen as a weakness, but should it be? Okay, yeah, Ngendo.
Okay. As to what I understand about all men, men have a certain type of ego where they were all raised to be from the beginning, it even goes up.
Ngendo, sorry, we can't hear you now. We kind of lost you. Okay, so whilst we wait for her, would any of the panelists want to go? The question I was asking is, should experiencing mental illness or any mental challenges, stresses, should it be seen as weakness? Is that a weakness? To acknowledge that you're experiencing this kind of mental stressor, or a kind of, a stressor for a guy or a man, you're feeling this kind of mental pressure, mental illness. Is it something to be perceived as weakness?
Can I take that one?
Yeah, Babs.
Okay. We, as me representing the women community, I'll say it shouldn't be a weakness, because for us women, we are actually open about our situations, and for us talking about something makes us feel better. But for men, I feel that should not be taken as weakness. And the reason why men feels like it's a weakness, because men, I think you would agree with me, you people are raised in a different way. When we look at girls and boys when we are growing up, men, they are trained to be able to solve their own problems. maybe somebody beats you up, Reverend Kwako, while you are young. You're told, no, you can fight. You're a boy, you know. You're a boy. You should be a man enough. Nobody should, make you feel like this. Okay. When you're going through pain, you're told, no, you're not supposed to cry. When you hit yourself, you're not supposed to cry. You're a man. A man is not supposed to cry. Okay. And then when you are talking about your issues, people will be like, why does he talk like he's a female? Why does he talk about his problems? People will look at it as weakness. Other, even men, probably, I don't even know if you men even sit down and share problems. I don't know how many times you sit like the way we sit as females. As females, we'll sit about relationship and say, girl, I'm going through a heartbreak. We'll be there talking about it, we'll laugh, cry about it, and find a solution right there and then. But for men, how many men will go to a fellow man and say, my guy, this is what I'm going through. I'm going through a heartbreak. This woman dumped me. You even cry to your friends. There are few, because men are trained to hold their pain, okay? And so talking about it makes them feel like they're not men enough, like they are not there. So, but according to me, it shouldn't be a sign of weakness, but a sign of strength.
Thank you so much. I mean, speaking of, how many men would you find sitting down to discuss their challenges? I'm in two guy groups. I mean, I'm in several groups, but like two groups where I have friends, like close groups with friends. And in one of them, it was suggested that, okay, so we've been together for years. I mean, as like 10 years, 15 years, So there's like, okay, so we've never really come to the point where we are sharing, like, like you're saying, Babs, like issues that really bothering us as individuals. So one of us was suggesting that we should start doing this, and it's been 2 years already. Nobody has started.
You're still planning.
It's been 2 years. Pepra, you're a guy. I just want to hear from the guys. Let me hear something. Pepra, how do you deal with stress? I mean, how do you deal with some of these pressures that you face as a guy?
Good evening to us all. I hope you are doing fine.
Yeah, it's great to have you.
Before I get into talking about how I deal with stress, I would want to pass a comment on the earlier question that was about whether it's a weakness to experience those down times as a guy. And for me, it's a no, in the sense that I feel men are also humans. Like, in a simple or layman term, man is also a human, just as a woman is. But the problem that we have in our societies right now is that we have trained the boy child to be too hard, even if there are times that it's going to be emotional about issues. You realize that growing up, be like, as a man, you don't have to be this, as a man, you don't have to be that. And it's not like, say, it's something that it's peculiar to just men, as in, it's not anything that only men do, like have a hand in. It's the general society, like from the female side, from the male side. It's that's how we go in the society. Get it? So I don't find any problem with having a problem with like getting those down times as a man. It's not anything like a weakness, because you are a human being, and yeah, sometimes those bad moments do come that you have to be emotional about issues. Sometimes if if you think it's best to do, just cry things out and just bounce back. It's kind of nothing. Sure. And about how I deal with stress, just as I've said earlier on, I'm almost made to think that I'm a man, so I don't actually have to register my weakness out there to people, or like register my downtimes to people, so that I won't be viewed as someone who is weak. But when I find myself in situations that I think are beyond me, I just find people that I'm closer to. I have female friends that I would say who are actually like reasonable enough to hear me out. Like, we talk about issues, then I do my best to like find solace around that space that I've created with them, and I deal with my stress. So that's what I do.
Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, you hit on a point where, I mean, like you were saying, that for you, one of the ways you deal with this is sharing with your female friends that you've created that kind of relationship or rapport or that atmosphere with. And I recall, same for me. Recently, I found myself in a point where I was kind of not myself. I was a bit in distress. I couldn't sleep. It was just not being myself, you know. And I didn't know who to talk to. So I sent a WhatsApp message to a female friend. I was like, I think I'm depressed, you know. And she was like, oh, why do I say that? And I'm like, yeah, because I'm seeing this most of it. I don't feel myself. I can't sleep properly. I'm unable to do the things that I really want to do. I'm unable to focus. I'm all of that. So she was like, okay, what are some of the things? So she started talking to me through it. And I think no guy, I mean, as I mentioned, I have very close male friends. None of them came to mind, but it was this female friend that I sent this message to. So yeah, Pepper, I think, yeah, that's something we probably have in common. Okay. Annie, I saw your hand up. Annie, yes.
Hey everyone, good evening.
Hi, Annie.
I came in a bit late. I had a bit of some issues, but yeah, so I'm sure I missed introductions and greetings. I think I just wanted to make a comment to something because you said you asked in the opening to say, should men feel ashamed about breaking down? And though initially, I think before I ever maybe really took a deep dive in men's mental health specifically, with mental health in general, but as a female, of course, I had an understanding of females' mental health and well-being. I think there was something that I misunderstood. I think the problem is not being able to break down, it's being comfortable with the breakdown, so to say. Because you see almost that as females, it's not a question of whether we are ashamed or not. It's that we are comfortable enough, or society has made it comfortable enough for us to actually accept that we are breaking down. Whether or not it's shameful. So I think that even for men, it's like, yes, they could talk to someone about it. Like usually when we're talking about men's mental health, we're like, no, they don't express it. They don't tell anyone. But like men have romantic partners, they have parents, they have spiritual mentors, they have friends, they have diaries, they have even social media. You see people posting anonymously. You see people talking to their spiritual mentors. But it's the person not being comfortable with their breakdown. Like it's them as a man, so to say. Obviously, I can't understand being a man and the masculinity that it comes with, but just from what I've noticed, it's the man accepting that, oh my God, I'm breaking down, I am failing, I have hit rock bottom, I have failed, I have disappointed some people, I have disappointed myself, I have let my family down. And I think that's where the biggest disparity is between men and women, is that as women, the minute I feel like I've failed, if I applied for something not accepted, that very moment I'll be like, oh my God, it didn't work out. What did I do wrong? Let me talk to my sister. But for men, it's more of a, this didn't happen. They don't really, it doesn't really register that as a human being, it's okay for you to fail and seek help. I see Kelvin has asked the definition of breaking down. I don't know if that's directed towards me.
You can take it if you want.
But I think when I say breakdown in this context, or at least how I meant it, it's when when you when you are facing something challenging and you face yourself as a human being. You strip away everything else. You break yourself down, like all the parts of you, your intelligence, your achievements, what you are, your beauty, your physical attributes, and you just have a conversation with yourself as a human being. I think that's what I mean as breakdown. You take away everything else, and it's just you and your inner self having a conversation. Yes, that's how I'd explain. That's the context I used it at. So just all in all I wanted to say is I think most of us, when it comes to mental health, but specifically for men, it's not really that they thought to recognize. I think just as a human being, even when you're feeling low or upset, you're able to recognize your emotions. I don't think that it's that they failed to recognize. I think it's that they haven't reached a point of comfortability with these emotions or these breakdowns. And just, of course, the obvious is not seeking help. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Annie. That's so profound. Yeah, great insights. So, like, you're right. So what you're saying is it's not really about the breakdown, but it's about acceptance, accepting this place of breakdown, accepting this place of this kind of uncomfortable feeling that we get into in these moments of mental breakdown or pressures and tensions. How do you express it? Yes, Kevin. Kevin, I'd like to ask you, have you felt any of these pressures before? If you have, in which forms were they and how did you deal with them? If we can look at this in a more practical way. I shared mine when I was moving from South Africa to Ghana. I felt a huge pressure. I didn't want to go back home, but I had to because I had a family. Otherwise, I wouldn't have. But I mean, I felt I was going into a place where it was very uncomfortable. Yeah, you know, but I just didn't have an option. I had to go, and I didn't want to, So that was a real pressure. I was looking for an escape, and finally I found one after a year or so. But but I did go back, and I had to deal with that pressure. I want to find out, Kevin, how have you been able to? Have you experienced any of such pressures, and how did you deal with it?
Yeah, this is a very good topic,
Mm.
and I find it so interesting because the way you are saying breakdown, most of the time you find only women express what they really feel.
Mm-hmm.
They have a way to go around it, and it's okay. We will overcome it.
Mm.
But for a guy to express his breakdown, it's a sign of weakness in some point.
Quite difficult, yeah.
So you find guys, it's hard for them to break down. So to express exactly what they feel. So that's why I was asking those two questions, because I really want to get it on a guy's perspective. Some of us, we go out, we drink, make noise. Yes, we get drunk. That part of or that season of whatever we are going through just disappears in the next morning. You get that.
Mm.
So it does not necessarily disappear. It sticks around, but it will be in a different form, like it was the first time you were experiencing.
Mm.
Yeah. We wanted that definition to come from your perspective. You mentioned about going through pressure, something challenging. Where I don't know about you and South Africa, but you didn't explain exactly
How I went
you.
through it.
Yes.
I overcame it.
Yes, how you did it, you didn't explain it. So there's still a challenge and a barrier,
Yeah.
Or opening up. Like already you yourself, you're failing to tell us exactly how you anyway.
Thank you. That's a good one, Kelvin. So let me tell you. So what happened was that when I got back to Ghana, because being in Ghana for me was like a trap. I mean, before, let me just give a little context. Before I left Ghana, I'd been to Israel, and I've experienced a bit of life in Israel. And then I came to South Africa. I stayed much longer in South Africa, and life in South Africa was much better. The opportunities were more for me there. And then having to go back to Ghana, I felt like my life in Ghana was I've just wasting my life in Ghana. That was how I felt. It was a real pressure for me going back there. And when I got back to Ghana, I had to go. When I got back, what I started doing was applying for opportunities to get back out of Ghana, to move out of Ghana. That was what I started doing. I mean, and pushing and pushing. So I started submitting more applications for PhDs, talking to people that I knew. I mean, doing whatever I could to make sure that I didn't stay much longer in Ghana. And my PhD opportunity didn't work through, but eventually I got a job offer and I got to leave Ghana. So I'm not in Ghana at the moment. But so for me, it was the pressure. Like going back to Ghana, I felt my life was being wasted. That was how I sincerely felt. It was a real pressure on me, you know. So I wanted to do whatever I could to move out of that country. And I mean, yeah, I couldn't use my PhD didn't go through, but I got a job offer that give me the opportunity to leave. And yeah, so that was it. When I got to here, I'm in the UK. When I got to the UK, for the first few months, I mentioned that I felt depressed, right? Because I was here alone and the life here was quite different. I mean, it's quite similar to being in Cape Town, but it wasn't easy to make friends and life was quite, you're more alone, you know, you're more to yourself, you know. So I found that I was feeling a bit depressed. And I mentioned I sent a message to a female friend of mine, and then she was talking with me through it, you know. So, and what happened was that I felt that there were things that I was doing in Cape Town that made me feel more healthy, in a more balanced way, you see. So what I tried to do was to replicate some of those. Like in Cape Town, I used to go for hiking and runs, like jogging, running. And since I came to the UK, I hadn't done that. So I got my kids together and I started doing that here. I did it for a couple of times and I felt that I was like kind of regaining myself, you know. So that was how I dealt with the situation coming back to Ghana. And then when I came here and I started feeling that sense of depression, that was what I did. I started doing exercise and being outdoors. So just to share my experience, I don't know if that helps, Kelvin. I see in the chat that there is, do men even cry? Yeah, so that's it. Do we have any more thoughts? Kakra, you're welcome. We're just delving deep into the conversation. You know, so far, what have we spoken about? We've said that if you don't take care of yourself, you'll be forced to take care of your illness. If you don't take care of your well-being, you'll be forced to take care of your illness. So first is that we've established that it's imperative for us to take care of ourselves. And coming to the point of men in particular, Annie was just saying that it's not an issue of breakdown, but it's an issue of acceptance. As in, like, men come to that place where they feel that they have come to this point where there's pressure. I mean, a breakdown, a psychological breakdown, whatever we call it, mental pressure. But when we get there, it's about the acceptance, accepting that condition or accepting the place where we are and the ability to talk about it. You know, I remember when I had a breakup. I think that's one of the big things that guys go through and they are not able to talk about. Proposing to a lady and the lady saying no, or yeah, I mean, when the lady says no, and when you're in a relationship and the lady leaves you, and there's a terrible breakup, and you tell your friends, and what do? They laugh at you, basically. They make fun of you. And it's hard, but, you know, guys will just tease you. And it could be your name or whatever for a couple of years, or maybe even forever, as far as you're connected to those guys. You know, so these are real pressures, and that's it. Anybody wants something to share? Anything to share? Okay, yeah, Jen.
Hello everyone. I'll try to switch on the video. Hi everyone. I joined in later on. I had troubles logging in. But hello. I'm Genevieve and I'm from South Africa. So first of all, I will start with basically a rough definition of what I understand mental health to be. I understand that it affects obviously your emotions, your psychological and social well-being, right? Now, for me, how I normally deal with things is from the human perspective first. Before you are a male or female, you are human, right? And there are certain aspects that a human consists of, right? So, like I said, your emotional well-being, your psychological well-being, it doesn't matter which gender you are, but those are starters, right? Now, I understand that mental health, first of all, affects everyone. It doesn't matter which gender you are, it doesn't matter which race you are, which part of the world you're from. fact is it affects everyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for men, I understand that it has been difficult to express themselves, to allow themselves to be emotional, because first of all, you are trained not to be, that it's a sign of weakness, whereas it's not. Because if you are busy holding all these emotions together, eventually you'll burst, right? And the bursting might not be good. You know, I look at the circumstances in South Africa. You hear a lot of the times how a male has killed or stabbed or shot his lover and his children. And you ask yourself, that person didn't just decide that day. So definitely something has been up for a while. That person has not been dealing with it. Now he just burst, right? So society, I don't know even know what that means, but like the way that men have been raised that don't show emotion, because that's weak. I feel it has robbed men so much of just the humane feeling or human part of it, because emotions are what has been put there, or that's what we've been created with. So if we don't allow ourselves, or if men do not allow themselves to feel emotion, then there's a part of them that they are missing, or that they are robbing themselves of. You know, I think of even, you know, the Bible, how God describes that he's jealous, that sometimes he gets angry. How dare men not allow themselves to feel that? Do you understand? Because now, if you are doing that, basically you're putting yourself above God, right? But that's a conversation for another day. I'm not a mamfundis. But these are just thoughts that I'm having, and I honestly wish my partner was here, ne? Because I think myself and him have given each other enough time. We have allowed him to just be like, if he feels that he just wants to punch something, for him to punch it. If he wants to sit and cry, and if he wants me to be there, I just let it. For me, it's not a sign of weakness, but just to see the person be able to express their emotions. For me, it's actually been a blessing to see him go through his emotions, his anger, his sadness. It's been a blessing to watch that, and how much we have both grown from that. I don't see it as a weakness. Um, so yeah, I think the Joe, if you allow me as the host, there's a poem. I didn't write it, but it's a poem from a peer of mine. We published our work back in 2016, and it speaks of this. This was back in 2016, by the way, right? I think he was in his early 20s. His name is Aviwe Gwele. This is the book. My name is also there. Ha 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 ha. But anyway, here I go, reading his poem. The title of the poem is Salty Water, right? It says, at an early age, I learned how to be a storm. A man stuffed with a boy, crying salty seas with his eyes. My actions are like waves which never felt the comfort of a shore. I would come home crying. Auntie would give me a hiding. Go back and fight. Your genes are not fused with femininity. Don't be a sissy. Hanging on the verge of emotion, I never learned how to rain. Holding the salty water too long. Now I'm a flood in motion. Learned how to deny myself the pleasure of crying. My cheeks never felt a baptism in ocean overflowing with tears. I've never been resurrected out of shame. I carry a hunchback of expectations like a backpack filled with seashells. Among peers, fighting was like riding violent waves to manhood. They monitored who'd cry first, whose nose would be like a sea running blood. My peers and I emptied sentiments from who we were, like cleaning dirt from seashells, to fit the definitions of men. Men don't cry. But what do we do when no one is in sight? We play wrists with razors, go head to head with guns to our heads to expose the softness held in our beneath skulls. Us boys resemble sponges. We absorb all the pain until one day we squeeze and we all drown. So I feel that it was fitting to this, right? And the nice thing as well is that it was written by a male. So it gives the perspective of males and also how, society has contributed to women becoming the people who are facilitating that you don't cry. You are a man, men up. But again, women are the same people that suffer at the hands of these men that have been trained to man up and not express their emotions. Yeah. So that's it.
Wow, that's really deep, Genevieve. I mean, even with the poem you also read, this reminds me of the conversation we had on menstrual health and how, I mean, this same pressure about society and expectations and all of that, so real, so real. I see that Kelvin is just reiterating what you just said, that Genevieve, our women out here say we are weak, so we don't cry, yet we are a pool of emotional tears, you know? Yeah. Thinking of all these, for me, I mean, there have been times I've cried. I remember in my interview with Taffy, I was telling her that there were times I just broke down in my room to cry. Of course, private, it was private, but I still cried. But the thing is, when we come to evaluating ourselves, I don't know, the guys here, I mean, I see Pastor Hammond, I mean, there are guys here. Sometimes, I don't know, but I've in a way come to look at myself and kind of judge myself on a scale, masculinity, femininity, and masculinity. So on these two scales, where do I weigh? Because it comes to a point where, because of the traits or some of the emotions you express and all of that, you tend to question yourself. Am I more of a masculine or feminine? I don't know if any of the guys here have asked themselves this question, but I have. And sometimes I come to the point where I'm like, okay, I think I'm maybe about 60% feminine and less masculine because of these emotions that I tend to express. So, but I don't know. This is kind of my assessment of myself, looking at compare myself to other guys that my friends and other guys that I come across, and I'm like, this person seems really solid, and I'm more of like, I'm more feminine than masculine or something like. I don't know if the guys here have ever kind of judged themselves or weighed themselves in such a way. I don't know if any of the guys would like to speak to this. I mean, it just came up. It's not something I was thinking of saying. I don't think it's a strong thing to say that you consider yourself more feminine than masculine. I know this is a very hard conversation to have. It is. I mean, especially for the guys, and it makes perfect sense. I mean, why people don't want to talk, and it's part of the conversation. This is how real it is, how real it is to talk about such stuff, and we're unable to actually flow. Insane, isn't it?
Looking at what you're just from saying, you still get me. Network is bad here.
Yeah, Kevin.
Yeah, from what you're saying, where you need to identify your strength, if you are more to the women side, like emotional pull, or you are more to the guys side where you are strong and everything is just intact like that. I think from what I can say is where a man is built to be strong, both physically, mentally, and emotionally. But sometimes you might find that due to circumstances and things that we go through, a man will only be weak emotionally when they find a ground where they are at peace.
Mm.
So you can get from Genevieve point of view. She said her man is able to express his emotions around her because a man has found where she has become so open and feels safe with her around, you see. But I think that goes to every man. It's not every time that a man needs to be so emotional. You know, it's tough out. Yeah, so at points, man can be even that person. People they say no, he's a serial killer. He's a serial killer. He kills people. The moment that man falls in the right falls into the hands of the right person, that man automatically becomes weak to that person. Even the physical or the CV has made for himself out there. People will see it, but that woman won't see it. Yeah. So this thing you said, part you belong to, where you say 60% you are this, 60% is that every man is like that. It's just the grounds. Yeah, I think that.
Thanks, Kelvin, for sharing that, and I mean for this perspective as well. Yeah. So I mean, to a very large extent, from what we are all saying, it's about the environment we find ourselves and how the perception, how we think that will be accepted in whichever way we show our emotions, you know. So the environment in a large way is influencing how men show emotions or deal with mental stresses and mental health in general. The ladies, let's hear from you. Genevieve has spoken, Barbara has spoken. Mandisa, we've seen some comments from you. Any thoughts from you? Would like to hear your voice. Well, yeah, you're also there. Would like to hear your voice.
Thank you very much. From what I've heard with what everyone has said, especially like from what the men have said in this platform, because I've been taking note, I feel like the first thing that needs to happen for us to change the perspective of men is for men themselves to change their perspective. Because from what I've gathered, it's like with you, because you gave an example where you could only open up to a female friend because somehow emotionally, females are emotionally intelligent to be able to hold certain conversations. And even I don't know who else mentioned that they also went and spoke to a female friend about it. So I feel like the first thing that needs to change, because we know this thing about men's mental health is an ongoing conversation. It's one we've been having for years, and it's going to keep on going for years to come. So we've acknowledged that there's a problem in how we handle men's mental health. So men also need to change their perspective. If a man is going through a breakup and he goes to his friend, I don't think the first thing to be done is to laugh.
But that's what you find, man. That's exactly what you're gonna get.
You laugh at each other, you call each other names. That shouldn't happen. And then with people, like, because now we've noticed, like, obviously we can't blame the previous generations. That's how they were raised, that, oh, a man should be strong. So your father would obviously have told you, be strong, don't cry, don't do that. But like, this is 2024, and we are having this conversation. So for those of us who will be raising children, who will be raising these little boys, I think it's up to us to now raise them in the right way. Give them an open space to say, speak about your feelings, what's going on, let's talk about this. And then for us women with men, we make it an open place for them to come and have conversations with us. It can be your partner, it can just be a friend, but I feel like we should be open enough to have these conversations with people and like give them an open platform for them to open up and share what's going on in their lives. So yeah, I think that's all I was saying. The first thing that needs to change is perception, and then this can be an easier conversation to have.
Thank you so much. Well, yeah, for joining. Because you guys joined late, we couldn't do your introductions. So if you're speaking, can you just introduce yourself, mention your country, and then yeah, a brief one, and then we just know where you're talking from and who you are.
Hello.
Hi, Kakra.
So now I've been able to get on. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Sorry, I joined in a bit late, but yeah, eventually I caught the train here.
Yeah.
It's
So
been an
please
interesting.
mention your name and the country you are joining from.
My name is Kakra, currently from Ghana. So I'm from Ghana now.
Okay.
It's been an interesting conversation, and it's very interesting once again that women are more vocal on issues that concerns men. And this is a very funny thing that happens because when it comes to men's issue, women talk more. When it comes to women's issue, then men talk more. We have to find a way to be the narrators of our own stories. So men have emotions, they can't express it. And then Joe says something that sometimes he feels is more feminine. And the fact that he regretted the decision almost immediately he made a statement just shows how much society has reoriented us. What is wrong with that statement? It's you, you know yourself, you know how you mostly present your emotions. And the fact that you're like, oh, you think you probably just said the wrong thing and all that.
Mm.
Men mostly have this guard. They have this guard, they are guarded up that it takes so much for you to break them. We don't even intend to, but it just sort of helps if you let people into your thoughts area, you know, because in as much as we all have our individual ways of thinking, we live in a community and you can be very idealistic. So whatever you stand for, whatever your truth are, whatever your strength are, it just helps if you let the people around you, maybe more specifically, the people you share very close relationships with in, then you don't get mistreated, you don't get abused, and you don't have to necessarily be a warrior, even to people as your wives, your girlfriends, and your mothers. And then very often, so this is a situation with a current situation between my younger brother and my mom. And my mother was like, oh, he's such a tough boy. He's a tough boy. He doesn't show any weaknesses and all. And I'm like, no, he's not. Because whenever he calls and he needs something, he's a crybaby. Okay. But so I asked him to what extent? What are you trying to do? You are struggling with something. If you say you are struggling with something, let the people who have the expertise help you. You don't have to feel any way about how you may represent your emotions as a more feminine way. Just get in touch with your reality. That's just who you are. We women, very often we blame everything on our hormones and premenstrual syndrome. And the excuse seems to work for us. Whenever we feel like we are feeling funny, we're like, oh, it's probably hormonal. And we get away with it. Unfortunately, you guys can blame your emotions on hormonal. So that is exactly how you feel. So a man harbors so much emotions, and when they get upset, they express it through beatings, through breaking stuff, and that is because they haven't found the right way of expressing how they feel. So, our dear brothers and friends and crushes and future sugar daddies and baby daddies, please feel free. Please feel free to open up to us. If you're having a bad day, talk about it. If there are things that are eating up your emotions and causing you to be depressed, please let's share our thoughts. It's not nice that we women have to say that you people don't even cry. That's because that is what you present to us. It's okay to cry. There's nothing wrong with it. And it's really source when you see your partner cry, you're like, oh, it's so cute. So every now and then cry so we can also feel you're human. I missed majority of the conversation, but yeah, this is just my 2 bits on it. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Kakra. So there's a conversation going on in the chats. Genesis, I'm sorry, Kelvin. Kelvin thinks that the ladies around us influence or impacts whether a guy is going to be emotional or not. And then this is unpopular opinion, and he says men can express emotions because anger, strength, and others are all emotions. It's the emotions that are affiliated to womanhood that are considered a weakness, or the womanhood weakness. These are the ones that men shy away from. And the biggest issue with tackling men's mental health is the rules and the systems of the patriarchy accepting that they were wrong. The system refused to reform at the expense of their own. Okay, so Annie, could you just say it's any more expressions on that? Which system are you talking about?
Okay, so
sorry, just before you go, mention your name and then the country you're joining from.
Oh, okay, thank you. My name is Annie Kapolio, and I am from Zambia.
Okay.
Yes. I think that when it comes to men's mental health and mental health in general, because I have always been interested in mental health. And as you'd expect, when you research about mental health in general and the history of it, of course, you get more information about general humans, but more about women and how mental health illnesses were used to shame women. Like if a woman and call them witches, bend them, there's all that history about women and mental health, and how mental health has been so tied to hormones and being a woman and things like that. And so I think that mental health illnesses were used originally as a weapon. When you look at the women were literally when it comes to mental health illnesses and stuff like that, like in the older days, women were prescribed childbirth, even masturbation, removal of their uteruses, or as medication or treatments for a mental health illness. And this was all to say you're having mental health illness because you're an underdeveloped man, and that's it. And so you'll see the fashion of mental health illnesses being tied to womanhood in a lot of cases. And so I think this is why there's been such a huge gap and distance between men and mental health. Because before that, it wasn't even discussed. It wasn't even possible for a man to, have a mental health illness. And like, if you just have time, just, the removal of a uterus is called hysterectomy. So you can just maybe Google and research the connection between hysteria and a hysterectomy. Just in your own time, just to feed your brain. So I think that the patriarchy itself set these rules and standards to dehumanize women and kind of say they're not strong enough, they're not strong-willed enough. This is why they cry. This is why they fail to function in the world of men. And I think that the patriarchy as a system, because again, remember, the patriarchy is not a human being, it is not a man, it is a system. And you find that women are actually some of the biggest enforcers of the patriarchy, because women are the ones raising these young boys that we're talking about. They're the ones who are constantly telling them not to cry. They're the ones who are constantly telling them, you shouldn't do this. Why are you playing with your sisters? Why do you want to wear pink? That's for your sisters. Women are the ones running households and majorly raising these young men that we talk about. And so then you come to say the patriarchy itself as a system has failed to accept its shortcomings and at the expense of its own men.
It's backfired.
Like the best example I can give is that you will see that even if, men reason. So you will see even in a household, a father will fail to accept a wrong at the expense of their own son. Like a son will tell the father, this made me feel this way. And even deep down, you cannot, yes, they grew up in systems. Yes, they grew up not knowing the truth. But as the functional human being, you will see when your loved one is being hurt. I have seen so many times, the best example, my father will sit, look at you, and you can see it in his eyes that this man knows he's wrong. But at the expense of a child or their own son's well-being, they'll just say, you were wrong, I was right, that is that. And in the same fashion, the patriarchy has failed to reform, because this will mean it saying we were wrong, women were not mad because they were women, because of hormones and because of other things. These are things that happen to all human beings. And that's why I feel like the patriarchy plays the biggest role in tackling men's mental health.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing. All right, so we're just going to draw the curtains on this. Final thoughts from any of the panelists, and then anybody who wants to share any thoughts.
Let me just go in here.
All right, Manisa. So yeah, mention your name and then your country.
All right. I'm trying to turn on my camera. I'm not sure if it's on.
No, it's not on. You can turn it on. We'll love to see you. There you are.
I think wait, I'm using my phone, so it's giving me issues here. Just a little bit. But I think, I see what's happening.
It's turned. Yeah, now you're right.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Hi everyone.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Mandisa. I am from South Africa. I'm loving this conversation. I also joined a little bit late, but I really wanted to just reiterate something that Genevieve said. I loved it so much, and she said something so profound and yet so simple, that before we are male or female, we are humans. And I think it's so important to just start with fundamental truths, and that's the truth: is that we're human. Oh, thank you, Annie. I appreciate that. But that we're human, and you take a human brain, and you subject it to certain conditions, whether someone is male or female, that brain is bound to physiologically react in a particular kind of way. And I think most importantly, that's the first thing to start with, is that we're human, and things are crying, sadness, confusion, frustration, anger are all human emotions. So whether someone is male or female, they're going to feel like that. I also loved what Annie said when she spoke about how men are perceived, and men being comfortable to feel those particular emotions themselves. I do think that I think it was as someone mentioned now about patriarchy in the system. I do think there needs to be intentionality to try and sort of rectify all those beliefs that have taken centuries to establish. So women will play a part in being able to create that space for men to be able to cry and men to express themselves. I believe men will have to play a part in allowing themselves to feel those emotions. But my parting shot is that I think men have to, really start also trying to separate. And I think maybe learning to separate what they do from who they truly are. Being a man often is synonymous with money, providing. Those are roles. That's not who you are. It's what you do. And I think if men, I believe men can get to a point where they truly believe and accept that they matter, that they are loved. I think it starts with personhood. If you as a man understand that you matter, that you are loved, even apart from doing all these things that are very important to do, if you understand that for who you are loved and you matter and you're appreciated, I think men will be able to at least take the step in the right direction, to allow themselves to be something that's very important, just simply human. And I think when men are healthy, they're able to do the things that they want to really do, which is provide and to love their families. So that's just what I wanted to add there, is that more firstly, we're human. And number two, men matter. Their emotions do too. And I think men they really do themselves a great disservice by not allowing them to just simply to be, and I think, yeah, that's just what I wanted to say. But really great conversation. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Mandisa. Yeah, amazing. Great. Um, David. Oh, okay. Sorry about your network, David. All right. So, any parting comments? Let me start from Genevieve. Any parting comments?
Yes. My comment. I don't know. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yep, I can see you, Jen.
So my closing comment is basically not far from what everyone has mentioned. That I think obviously a review of what has been there that has led us here, because we can't just, it didn't happen in a vacuum. There was a system in place that took centuries. So we realize right now that it's doing us a disservice. So we have to review and rewrite, right? The things that we want now. And then I think that will require men, right? Since this is I feel this affects men, right? We can only understand to a certain extent, but this affects men. So men have to literally hold each other's hands here, hold each other down. And I think first of all, men need to be honest with themselves first and honest with each other. And I feel like from there, they'll be able to move. Mandisa would probably agree. There's been so many jokes about men's conference in South Africa. Ne? I feel it's necessary. I've seen videos of men having those real and true conversations among themselves. And to me, it gave me hope. It was healing to hear men speak to each other like that. So this one needs men to hold each other down. And as women in society, we'll catch on, right? But this requires men. And good luck to all men.
Thank you so much, Genevieve. Yeah, so I see Barbara says, hey, man, you are humans. You matter and you are loved. Powerful. Okay, so yeah, that's from Mandisa. All right, so on that note, if we don't have any further comments from any of our panelists, Waya, do you have any parting comments before we say bye to everyone?
I don't really have any parting comments, but all I wanted to say is this is a very great conversation we've had. Sadly, the time was not enough to exhaust everything, but I'm glad that we've started, and I hope that we can be able to talk about this again sometime in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next discussion is going to be next week, Friday, and we're going to delve deeper into more issues on mental health. So everybody, keep that time logged out for Voice One Africa discussion on mental health. So on behalf of the team, I would like to say thank you to each and every one of you, the panelists, and also all the participants for sharing these rich perspectives. So we say Serene Minds, yeah, we're just pushing forward for mental wellness among Africans. And that's my parting comment from us. Let's keep healthy, let's keep well, and let's keep bright. All right. God bless. Ciao, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.